The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends. Everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast podcast, where two therapist coaches, aka TheraCoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
And we're live.
Hello.
Episode 2 of the Notcast. Anxiety. 3 super strategies to smash the shit out of your anxiety.
Woohoo!
Although, as per usual, there may be more than 3 because we've each got 3 and it's basically a clickbait title, so whatever.
You're not supposed to tell people, but okay.
They're going to work it out eventually. Hang on a minute, can't you guys count? Well, we can, but we choose not to. It's our podcast, fuck off.
And here we go again. Get ready.
How to win listeners and influence people.
The TheraCoach way.
So, anxiety.
Yeah. Anxiety.
So what does anxiety mean to you, Amy?
I've reflected on this, and at the very start of that process, I was kind of like, have I really felt anxious? Did I really? And then I got to the point where I actually realized that I pretty much spent most of my life in an anxious state of dread, nervousness, fear, like every single day. Because I actually felt like a complete fraud as a human being for such a long time. Like this utter dread within that I would be found out.
Really?
Yeah. As the only human being that didn't know how to human.
Didn't know how to human. How do I human, please? Where is the lesson for this?
Yes, nobody taught me how to do this. I don't know what I'm fucking doing. Yeah, it was like a dread that never really left.
It's interesting because I mean I had similar in that when I first reflected on like what's anxiety to me, was I not how did I experience anxiety? The first thing that came up was, well, I didn't really experience that panicked type of anxiety, that real high anxiety, anxious thing. I mean, and in my later life, I think that was, I don't know whether it was true, but it looked true to me, because a lot of my anxiety was about rules and about the overthinking. It was the kind of the rules I had about structuring my life that stopped me being anxious. And then the overthinking about how to make sure those things stay in place, and the worry about what happens if they can't, that kind of thing. The whole painting myself into a corner thing and then being miserable about it, which I suppose is not. When I think about anxiety, that's not classic anxiety, at least in my mind. Like classic anxiety is like, oh my god, I'm anxious all the time, and I don't think that's always what it's like. But the more I thought about it, I did experience anxiety as a kid. I remember having a panic attack actually when I was moving into like year 4, and there was a teacher who was a bit of a tyrant, really. And I remember just being terrified of her. And I had a stutter at the time. And I remember like she did something like, I was stuttering over this word in a reading circle, and she like shouted at me because I didn't know the word. And I remembered having my first panic attack, and I'd completely forgotten about this until I sat down to reflect, because I was my mum had filled in my reading book or something like that. Like I was supposed to read a book or something, and my mum was supposed to write in the book, and she'd written in it wrong or something, or a way she wasn't supposed to, and I had a complete meltdown.
Wow.
It's like on the floor, like heavy breathing and panic. I mean, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I had a panic attack, and I think it was because at the time I was like, shit, it's going to be wrong, and she's gonna like, I'm going to get in so much trouble because my mum's written in my book wrong.
Wow.
And I think over time, though, what I'd learned is I'd learned to foresee stuff like that happening. So the way I'd learned to kind of not have to experience that was just have lots and lots of rules and shoulds about why I do and don't do, why I do and don't do certain things to avoid having to feel that way.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, yeah, that really resonates. Because what came up for me was a lot about control or the illusion of control.
Yeah.
Right. Thinking that if I put all these things into place, then people won't be able to see through that and I'll have control. So I won't humiliate myself, or I won't look stupid, or I won't look like the failure, or the embarrassment, the shame. All of those things won't happen if I can put all of these things into place and keep people from seeing how messed up or broken or damaged or fucked up I was. But I had to control it. So yeah, it was a lot like that. It was like I need to put all these control things into place. Obviously, the joke being that I didn't actually control anything.
Well, is that what the dread was for you? Was the dread around that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think fear. It was a narrative built on fear.
Fear of what?
Everything, but mostly myself.
Let's chunk down a bit.
I realize now that the fear was about me. Like, I was just afraid. I was afraid of getting it wrong. I was afraid of being exposed. I was afraid of not getting things right. I was afraid of looking like an idiot. But most of all, I was afraid of just living.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't know how to. I felt like I just got it wrong the whole time.
No, I resonate with that. That's what came up for me. Like I said, initially I was thinking of anxiety and I didn't connect the dots exactly. But the more I thought about it, I was like, of course this is all anxiety. Like, because a lot of my stuff was about feeling not good enough. And what played into that was this fear of failure, this fear of getting stuff wrong, and really the fear of being humiliated and looking stupid if I did. And like I said, that's what, when I was like, oh, of course, that's what that panic was about when the teacher shouted at me for not being able to say that word, because I felt fucking stupid. Because I'm like, I'm stuttering, but I don't know how to stop stuttering, and I'm now being shouted at for stuttering. Like, surely this means something wrong about me. This is a bad thing. I should probably never do that again.
Yeah, which kind of takes it to that place of where does it come from in the first place, right? It's like, because does the child calm down when you shout at them?
No. But it's funny because that kind of thinking, I mean, when I think about it, it played out so far into my life. Like trying to learn, like when I was trying to learn guitar, I was just frustrated and disheartened the whole time. I mean, I was persistent with it, actually largely because I think I had this dream about being a singer-songwriter, because I thought I'd be loved by everybody if I could achieve that dream. You know, I did love music at the same time, but there was definitely some goal in there about trying to achieve something outside of myself. But the whole process of trying to learn was fucking painful, because every time I picked it up and tried to learn something, there was this fight between, I want to do this, but it's not good enough, and therefore we need to try harder, and the frustration at myself. And then it would be like, I'd think about playing guitar, and then the thought about doing it, there's part of me like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then when it would get closer to actually being able to do it, I'd talk myself out of it, because I'd remember, on some level, I'd be remembering about how fucking painful and disheartening it was.
Yeah. I smile because not because it's funny, but because it's often the point where you feel like you're the only person that feels like that. And nobody else does, or nobody else sees the world like that. And I wonder if you felt like that.
Well, I did get, I used to think there was something about me that meant I couldn't do it. Like, I remember you know, years later, I went to guitar college, and there was this guy who was a virtuoso, like he was fantastic. And I remember him talking about, he was playing like slap guitar, and someone said to him, like, oh, you know, how did you learn to do that? And he just quite honestly was like, do you know, that's like one of the things I just never had to practice. I could just do it. And when I heard that, I'm like, really? Fuck off. Mate, go fuck yourself. How does that fucking help me?
Oh dear.
But basically, like, that just reinforced my belief that that there was something inadequate about me. Like, he's got this natural talent. And so therefore it's like, well, what's the point? Like, if he can just do it without practicing, like, where does that leave me? And I didn't realize that was all based on, because, you know, I already had that belief about me that I wasn't good enough or whatever. And I was almost just looking for it elsewhere.
Yeah. And again, that kind of resonates deeply, because I had to confirm all the time that it was something about me specifically that wasn't working or wasn't connected in the right way, that nobody else was like that. That there was fundamentally something wrong, which obviously didn't help the anxiety, just made it worse. You know, I guess it's the story that kept me in that loop of self-sabotage and victim. And that kind of served its purpose. Yeah, it was kind of like the guitar thing in a way, where it was like, look at everybody else doing all the things that they can do. I'm just not like that. So I'm never going to be able to do any of these things. All these people just seem to be able to do all this shit so naturally. And it's so difficult for me. That there must be something wrong with me. So I think it was just this story all the time to try and prove that there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Which, again, just bred more anxiety and stress. And yeah, it's like a cycle of self-hatred.
A cycle of self-hatred, yeah. Did you ever suffer like panic attacks, or the physical side of anxiety, the real obvious outward manifestation, if you like?
Yeah, sometimes, but I would kind of dismiss it and tell myself to pull myself together, because that wasn't it wasn't a thing that I was allowed as such. As part of my conditioning was like, no, you always have to be okay. It's stressful to other people if you're not okay. So again, if I wasn't okay, then that bred more anxiety. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to cause people stress now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah.
Like responsibility for everything and everybody else.
Yeah, my badge of honor. My little medal, martyrdom medal. Look at her. Just, trying so hard. My school report, tries hard, needs to try harder. Always like, all of those things. It just felt not good enough. I think going to a private school, just quite a high achieving school, made it worse. Because it wasn't by choice. It was, it's something that I was told I had to do. So it was just I lived in a constant world of comparison, which was anxiety inducing in so many different ways. And it would manifest physically sometimes, but I just didn't know it at the time. I would just kind of be quite hard on myself, which obviously, as we know, it doesn't work.
It's funny because when I think about, like I said, a lot of my anxiety eventually got to the point where I just learned to be so controlled over it. So I remember like I could be asked to do something, or something would come up and I'd just be like, no, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
Like I was just, and sometimes I might know what it'd be about, but I suppose, I'd largely have a story about it where it's like, no, I remember catching myself once. Someone said to me about playing a game. And I had a thing where I would rarely play games, and I'd have these stories about like I just I prefer to watch and stuff like that. And I remember a mate of mine saying before about playing this game. I can't remember what it was, and it just came out of my mouth. I don't play games. And I remember catching it, and I was like, what is that? But what I really meant was, I don't like to play games that I don't already know I can play in front of people, because if I lose or I fuck up, I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to feel stupid. I'm going to feel like there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. That's quite an intense thing though, isn't it? Like, it feels so real. When it's like, when you're in it, it feels so real. It's just, like that is, because thinking about it now, I think I'd probably do it, that kind of stuff. But I was really averse to that kind of thing. Like showing myself up in any way, shape or form was just like a massive no-no.
No, I get that, because I know for me now, I know we talked about this, like the spiritual journey for me is like, oh, there's an edge, let's lean into it and see what that's about. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, I feel uncomfortable, well, let's just see what, because I know that I've got all this ego bullshit about what it might mean, but I also not really sure that's entirely true. So let's go test it a little bit. Let's dip the toe in the water and see if the sharks come a nibbling.
Yeah,
because they might not. But I was absolutely sure of of my ideas before, like with playing a game or something, or trying something different. And going back to when I remember actually having a real freak out when I went to music college, because I'd wanted to be a better guitarist, and I was like, okay, I realized that I'm going to have to do some proper training in this. I'd saved up the money, I'd worked it out with work, and I was like really looking forward to it. And I got there then for the first like introduction day, and I just spent the whole day in a state of panic, because they're excitedly talking about all the stuff we're going to do, and all I'm seeing is like all this shit that I'm going to be expected to pack into an entire week whilst trying to work part-time, and thinking, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't, oh my god, and I've got to do this in front of people, and I can't do that. Like, it had taken me like I would occasionally learn a new song. It would take me months, and I probably wouldn't learn all of it, and then I found out that I've got to learn 2 parts of the same song per week, every week.
wow.
And I'm there like genuinely didn't think that was possible. But then it was like, well, the only other option is to run away and hide and not do it. And it's like, well, I can't do that, because then I'll be letting myself down, and I wasted all this money. But what was brilliant, although it's definitely not the strategy I would recommend.
Just saying.
But what was brilliant was, because I felt I was forced into a corner, essentially. Now, I wasn't. I was only forced into the corner by my own head, right? But because I felt forced into a corner, I was like, well, I'm just going to have a fucking go then.
Right. I was going to ask. Yeah.
But then I surprised myself, because then I was like, oh shit. And initially I didn't see that, because I'd still get up on stage and play it, and I'd be like, I just about muddled through. And after a while, I'd have my classmates or even the teacher come out, it's really good. And I'd be like, they got shit in their ears. Like, that was... And again, because I was judging myself on this, this standard that was really high. But after a while, it did make me go, well, hang on a minute, maybe I'm not entirely right about this stuff. I don't think that I can do this. But okay, like, I didn't get up on stage and nail it perfectly. Like, I was never going to be Jimi Hendrix after practicing a song for a week. But it's like, I got through it, and it was actually all right. And actually, I had people saying it was all right. So that did start to mess with my sense of what I thought was, my belief in what I thought was true, what I was so sure was true.
So is that where it started to kind of shaky ground for it?
I would love to say that, yeah, that was like a massive enlightening moment. It was probably a smaller step along the way, because, there was just more of them after a time. But again, like, that was, almost when I think about that, that wouldn't classically be what I'd consider, or what I would have considered anxiety. But all of that belief stuff, what I can't do, and normally the avoidance of it, was all about avoiding that moment where I'm fearing I'm going to stand up on stage, make a complete tit of myself, and then and feel fucking stupid and be ridiculed. And actually it didn't happen, and it kept not happening. So when it kept not happening, the only thing I could consider after a while was, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, right. So the first time that happened, did you kind of think that's just a fluke? I fluked it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was like, oh well, that's different because, or they're just saying that because they're my course mate, they're my course, or the teacher's gonna say that because obviously they're gonna be really, really nice about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like just talking about it, because honestly, I so felt like obviously nobody else in the whole wide world would understand if I spoke this out loud. They would just look at me. They'd probably lock me up in a padded cell. Go, what the fuck is wrong with her? But then you start talking to people, and it's like, oh no, I get that. That resonates with me. And it's like, wow, maybe I'm not as fucked up as I thought I was. Or everybody is. One of the other. Yeah, and I guess that's part of the problem, is that we don't talk about it enough. We don't share enough around the reality of what these things look and feel like every single day. Like, I think when it gets that big kind of label, and for me, when I kind of saw it at first glance, as I was training for therapy, for example, it's like anxiety, this is what it is. And I instantly was like, nah, I never had that. Which is just like, actually, that was every day of my life. Every day of my life. And I just feel that more awareness is needed. So conversations like this need to happen.
Well, yeah, when I think about anxiety now, I see it really as because I know like some people they define anxiety and fear differently, but to me they're just different ways of looking at it. Like you could think anxiety is when it's it's a perpetual state of it, you could say, but to me it's still a process of there's something I'm seeing as a threat that I don't feel capable of dealing with, and I'm having this physical response to it, and physical and emotional response, and I'm trying to get the hell away from it somehow.
Yeah.
And for me, when it's often labeled anxiety, I don't even know whether this is true actually. I think if it is there all the time, it's like there's a threat that I can't do anything about, and I can't actually get away from it even though I keep trying. But then I know that people talk about, oh, I have anxiety, and what they mean is they feel scared when they do a certain thing.
Yeah.
But then if they say I have anxiety, then for me it becomes this whole other. Well, it's a concept, right? It's a belief. It's an idea.
Yeah, it's like a jacket you put on, right? It's like, I have this. It's just with me all the time. I just carry it along with me wherever I am. You just out of the blue, it could just pop up because I have it. It is mine. Yeah.
Or like a dog. It's like a dog, but a really angry dog that. It's not barking at the moment, but he's still there. Don't worry. If I go somewhere scary, then it will start barking, and that's my anxiety. But at the moment, he's there. He's still there. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing about a label, though. Like, it's very easy to take a label and just kind of go, yeah, that label's mine. And then it kind of, I know for me, if I give myself a label, then I'm looking for it everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you go, where's that label that fits? Where are those places where my label fits the situation that I'm in? So, and you are correct in that for me, it's just but it is a fear thing. It's about fear. And because all I come back to when I look at it is fear and dread of myself in particular. And I'm just going to fuck everything up and do something spectacularly stupid. And again, I think that for me, it was moments, like tiny little glimmers of, I had all this anxiety about this thing that I needed to do. And then I did it. And I got through it. And the worst thing in the world didn't happen. And I was okay afterwards. Like once I slipped at a tube station.
You slipped at a tube station?
Yeah, like I was running off a tube. and for a meeting actually at the Department of Education, I think it was.
Mm.
And I was late. And as I got off the train, I started running. I just slipped. And honestly, like even now it makes me feel a bit hot, but it's like that was like one of my worst case scenario moments ever. Zero
Falling over in
control.
public.
Yeah, like being in public, all these people looking at me, nobody offering to help. London people, and everybody looking at me. It was like one of my most feared moments. However, because I was late for my meeting, I just had to get up and keep going. And then afterwards, it was like, well, the ground didn't open and, you know, hell didn't freeze over and everything was okay. Like, I was okay. I dealt with it. And I think it was that fear that I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this stuff. Like, yeah. I didn't know what I believed was going to happen to me, but I honestly believed I couldn't deal with things like that.
I get that. And that's why for me, where it's like you then had experience, right, of that happening and it being okay. Right. Well, I know that because where I had anxiety over stuff in the past, because I got so good at being so controlled about the things I wouldn't do to avoid those situations. It was really hard for me to get new experience to update that stuff, essentially. So no, I managed to avoid feeling anxious a lot, like actually anxious. I mean, there's all the overthinking going on about it, about trying to keep all the rules in place, but actually I just ended up fucking miserable over the whole thing because there was all these things now I either wasn't allowed to do or had to do a certain way to avoid to avoid feeling anxious, to avoid, looking stupid or failing or whatever.
Yeah. Social anxiety. Yes, utter joy. Utter joy that, yes. I know I don't want to come to that place. I don't want to because I might look stupid. But I will come up with a valid reason.
Well, I used to get, I'd have that with social anxiety where it would be I'd plan to go somewhere and I don't like sometimes it would, I don't know, I'd just be overcome with some real negative feeling, like I felt I really couldn't go. And that was likely some shame stuff, and I just felt physically unable to face going, right? But I would have these other things that would show up where it would be like when I was trained to be a therapist, it would be getting there really early so that I'd be one of the first ones there, so I could pick my seat at the front. So then everybody else is behind me and I'm right in front of the trainer. So if I put my hand up, I can get my questions answered. But then I also, if I'm asking a question, no one's going to turn around and look at me. And I didn't consciously know any of this stuff because I had all these bullshit reasons for why I did it, but that's why. Yeah. And then I had the converse where if it was a party, I'd find myself leaving it later and later to go. And I worked out eventually, some of it was, I think, probably putting off just the anxiety of having to meet people or whatever and the fear of the judgment and whatever. But it was like, well, if I turn up late enough, then I won't be caught in that bit where it's quiet and then I'm having to have conversations with people and getting stuck there. It's like when it's almost like getting lost in the buzz, basically. Yeah. And I found I used to do this thing at the pub where I'd be talking to someone and be able to I don't know, saying something, but then if I felt I'd run out of steam, I'd be able to go back in a minute and then run to the loo or run out for a cigarette. That's why smoking was a great idea. Back in a sec, I'm going to smoke.
I just need to get a fag.
I don't actually need a cigarette. I just need to somehow get out of this conversation before I feel I've got nothing else to say and you're going to look at me and I'm going to feel awkward.
Yeah. Again, that resonates. That resonates deeply. Yeah. Like all sides of it kind of caused anxiety though. Saying no to somebody that I couldn't come to something caused me anxiety. It's like, oh, how am I going to say no? I'm going to look really bad. But then it's like, if I go, that's going to cause me a lot of anxiety as well. And that whole process of just thinking about it caused anxiety. It was just such a fucked up fucking process because it was like a fight or flight.
Well, for me, it's that that kind of thing you're talking about. It's like the mind's trying to find the solution that makes the problem go away. But the problem is actually I don't feel okay about myself.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
because the root of it is I don't feel okay about myself, it's like, well, if I go, then that's going to push that button, and if I don't go, it's going to push that button. So I keep trying to cycle ways that I find for the thing I'm going to do, which means I feel okay about myself, but none of them seem to work. So I just
Yeah.
overthink it and feel bad in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that was the central thing for me. Being me caused anxiety.
Oh, Wounda.
Yeah. Thanks. So sincere. If only you could see his face, people.
Basically, I'm the problem.
You're causing me anxiety now.
But I think that's what it is, though, isn't it? Like, I think that's, for me, it often, if not always, comes down to some version of that, even if it's in the moment. It's like, I'm not okay with me and who I am in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore I need to do something to get away from that. But it's that old thing, isn't it? You know, wherever you go, there you are.
Yep. That's the thing. But there's no getting away from, like, for me, there was no getting away from it because it was everywhere. It's like, this is how your life, I guess it's part of society, media, culture, and all the things you're told that you should be or have to be, or like as a woman, like all the things I wasn't enough of, or when I was younger, it was because I wore glasses.
Right.
Yeah. It was like, oh my God, I am the four eyes. I was just like, because that's the kind of things people used to say. So I actually got to a stage as a teenager where I got contact lenses and never took them off. Like to the point that my optician was like, you might lose your eyesight one day if you kind of keep wearing your contact lenses for this long during the day. Like I would sleep in them sometimes.
Wow, hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. And like I would have a face full of makeup. I couldn't go anywhere without makeup or with my hair without my hair done. And it was all, I'm just not good enough as a woman, as a human, as a whatever. So it was that constant comparison, which made me feel even more anxious.
That's the power of your personal bullshit, prepared to go blind.
Yeah, right. Rather than let anybody see me in my glasses, which now I wear all the time. And the worst thought in my head is like, do I really have to wear contact lenses? Really, because they don't feel good. So it's like, yeah, it's completely flipped now because I don't give a shit.
Well, I found that with I used to do weightlifting for a bit, and then when I had the realization that largely the reason I was weightlifting was because I thought it would make me better, more attractive as a human being, more likable. When I saw that and realized it wasn't true, it was like, oh, well, I don't need to do this anymore. And it's not that I don't love weightlifting, but it's because I had my weights were in the back garden. So back when I was weightlifting, it'd be, I remember like, this is how insane I was. It's like fucking December or something. It's snowing and I'm up at 5 a.m. lifting in the snow.
Rambo style.
Literally, like I'm not even joking.
Rocky style, not Rambo style, Rocky style.
But now when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to lift weights that much.
Yeah, I get that.
But a lot of that, the reason I got the rack and put it in my garden was because I had anxiety about, I didn't want to go to the gym, which is literally 2 minutes walk from my house. I didn't want to go to the gym and be around people and have them see me doing that. So it was like, oh yeah, I'll just get weights in my back garden and then lift them at 5 o'clock in the morning outside in the snow, because that seems like a better idea.
As you do. As
you do when you've got, personal bullshit.
Yeah. It's amazing what makes sense to us then, doesn't it? It's just like, this makes perfect sense to me right now. I am going to freeze my ass off in the snow or leave my contacts in all night so that, they stick to my eyes and then I just can't see.
But it'd be better than being called Four Eyes.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would be better than people looking at me because I'm wearing glasses whilst I'm judging myself for it.
Yep.
Yeah, so there is hope, people. There is hope. As you can see, or hear, even. Yeah.
So, tips for smashing the shit out of anxiety.
Oh, okay. So strategies. Okay. So I had loads, as always.
Like what, 24 or something?
Yeah, kind of around that. You guess well, every time. It's like, but I've kind of gone with the things that help me the most. Yeah. So I think my first one is commit, practice, repeat.
Commit, practice, repeat.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay. So committing to myself was probably the biggest step. I mean, in my overall growth, emotionally and spiritually, it was a commitment thing. It was about committing to me, committing to something different and doing something different, rather than just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting that one day I might get a different result if I just continue as I am. So it's about creating that commitment to doing something different. But then it took practice, and then it's repetitive. And the reason that I've put that in there is because I, like many people that I come across, used to think, well, I read this book. Like, surely the anxiety should fucking go now. Or, I don't, even doing my training, my therapy training, even after that, it's like, well, surely I'll never feel any of this shit again. It's just like, but that was, again, an illusion. And I think I get quite frustrated when people sell that as a thing, like just do this little thing and you'll be fine. For me, it is absolutely a commitment to myself every single day. And it is about practice, doing something different. If it took me 30 odd years to get to that space of that much anxiety, it's obviously not going to stop if I do something once. I'm going to have to commit to doing something completely different every single day. And I know that people don't like to hear that. I hated hearing that, and getting to that realization that shit, that's going to have to be the way it is. Like, I need to commit and I need to practice every day, because like, you can't get in a car for the first time and go, oh, that's it, I know how to drive now. Or go to the gym once and go, I've got a 6-pack now, I never need to go to the gym again. Or like, it wouldn't make sense in those situations. So how on earth people think it makes sense in this situation? I thought it made sense in that situation. It's not how it works. So it really was about trying something different over and over and over again until I found the thing that worked for me, and also not getting too caught up in this worked for me, this worked for me, this worked for me. I just had to try different things until I figured out what was right for me. And then I had to repeat again and again and again and again and again.
Gotcha. It's interesting you talk about that, because this is what came up for me. And this kind of speaks to my second one, maybe somewhat to my first, but anyway. I would find that idea about doing something different. I would often try something, but I would because I was seeing it through that lens of like, I'm not capable, like there's something to do, there's something wrong with me. And one of my beliefs was, that not good enough thing. It was really tied with my ability to do stuff. I really thought like there was something about me that I'm not capable. Like I should be, if I was capable, I'd be being better at this already. Type thing. So anything new that I tried, any data that came in, was often, it was criticized to the point that it was like, no, well, this is why I shouldn't carry on doing it.
Yeah.
And I definitely, so, while I wholeheartedly agree with, what you say, like practice and committing, I definitely found that tough because I believed my bullshit. Like when I tried something new, like I said, that would come up, and then I'd believe it, I'd feel disheartened, and I'd take that as a reason to not. And that's why one of my tips, one of my strategies is to consider, what if you're wrong? What if you're actually more capable than you think you are? Because for me, and I call this, when I talk to clients, I call it positive doubt. It's like, okay, well, Yeah, because people will often say to me, like, well, I'm not sure I can. And what I've realised is that's not accurate. Actually, that's not what they mean, because that's not what I meant. I didn't mean I'm not sure I can. I meant I know I can't.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's the problem. Because if you weren't sure, if you actually weren't sure, then there might be some room to see it a different way. There might be some room to go, okay, well, it looks like I fucked it up, but what if I didn't actually fuck it? What if, and I often use the example of, and it's kind of what you spoke to, driving.
Yeah.
Like, if we all judged our ability to drive on our first driving lesson, we'd all stop fucking driving.
Yeah. I know, right? I feel like, nah, don't ever get in a car again. Yeah.
But I think with that, for example, we know just culture, because I mean, most of us, and I do know people who have said that to me and said, well, I know I can't drive. Well, I've tried it a few times, and, and they really believe that. But for the majority of people, I think, because we know so many people that do drive, even there'll be those people that have said, I found it really hard. I had to, do my test 3 times or whatever. And we know it's normal to take 10, 20 lessons or whatever to learn. That there is some kind of counter belief, there's some counter evidence to go, actually, well, maybe it just looks this way. Maybe it just looks like I'm fucking shit at this. And maybe it's that some practice will help.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's that being able to sit with it, right? And being able to look at it and shine a different light on it, and committing to that. Committing to that process of going, no, I'm actually going to challenge the bullshit. Because that was another one of mine. So it's very similar to that one. It's like, sit with it. Sit with it. Talk to it.
What's that one? So what's your next one then?
Well, I was thinking I'm going to change it now. Okay, my next one is...
Off script.
Stop
Not that we had one.
No, my next one is slow down. Slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I love what you did there. Yeah, that. No, but literal, like, yeah, because when I really got into that space, firstly, it felt like everything was going really, really fast. And it was like, so physically slowing down. But then speaking to what you just spoke about, it's like, if you can slow down, you can look at it slightly differently. You can ask that question, right? You can kind of really look at it and get present, because that's so fucking important. It's like, right here, right now, what is going on? Just right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, just right here, right now, and kind of connect. And then you can give yourself a moment to really see it. So, and get a bit of clarity around it rather than getting caught up in the panic. Like, nothing makes sense when it's at that speed. It's just like reactive. So one thing leads to another reaction. And for me, it's like, if I slow it right down, then I can kind of turn the volume down on the critic or the, shit self-talk. And it's just like, okay, slow, breathe, and really look at that. And nurture yourself, give yourself that moment and be with it. Like, what's really going on right now? Like, am I in any danger? I'm safe. It's that reassuring. For me, it's like talking to myself as I would somebody I love. Yeah, taking that moment to just be with yourself. And I find in that space, a lot of people tell themselves off or get really pissed off with themselves. And it's like, no, this is the time to slow it down.
The should bag comes out.
Shoulding all over the place.
Well, what I was thinking as you were talking, can you think of any times or any experiences that come to mind where, where you've done that, where that's where you've been able to do that, and maybe, I don't know whether maybe it surprised you because you've gone, oh, I was able to do that this time, and in the past I hadn't, or something like that.
Yeah, talking in front of people. This.
Yep.
I mean, being in an environment as a facilitator, as like group facilitator, even in trainings and stuff, talking, like I used to feel this, I would stop myself from doing it. So I can remember being in my massive circle on my training, and it was like 24 people, and it took everything in me. Like I really want to say something, and I just felt like I just can't say something. And just slowing it all down and going, really, Amy, are you in any danger? What's really going to happen? I just have to remind myself that these people are supporting me. Nobody's going to laugh at me. It's just not my childhood. I'm not in the playground, all of these things. But that only happens if I slow it down.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's being aware of it and catching it, and like you say, getting present, right? See, I don't think of it as slowing it down. I think about getting present and getting closer to it. But it's just different ways of talking about it, isn't it? Because in my experience, like when you get more present with something and for what I would call get closer to it, time slows down as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, they kind of intertwine. And I think I chose slow down because I think for a lot of people, they start to, well, as I see it with clients when I work with them, is that everything gets really, really quick and they're like that. It's really bad, I can't cope. Yeah. It's my anxiety. So it's like, okay. So I start to talk slower, and that just, So I guess, physically slow down, emotionally slow down, mentally slow down, get fucking present.
Get fucking present. But no, actually, the more, as I talk about that, there's truth in what you're saying for me, because I know, when I would get anxious or worried about something, that would be when I would speed up my speech, for example. It's almost like to rush past it. So actually, same thing, slow it down, more present. So it's another way of talking about it.
So what's yours?
Well, my last one, I haven't done my first one yet because of the order, but mine was turn towards it and get curious.
Love it. Tell me more about that. I love that.
Well, it's basically what you were talking about, right? In a way, a slightly different metaphor, I guess. So for me, the way I see it is when we're anxious about something or there's some discomfort, we spend a lot of time seeing that as like, that's the threat. So I've got to get the fuck away from it. Like sometimes it's the turn towards, often after, like, I shouldn't be doing this. It's the fight response. But otherwise it's I've got to get away by rushing, by disconnecting somehow. It's this sense of, I can't handle this thing. It's gonna hurt me. It's bigger than me. And so for me, that turn towards it and getting curious, as you spoke about, getting present and slowing it down, I like to think of it as the kind of, if the dragon's chasing me and it's a massive dragon, and I know it's a massive dragon and I can't cope, I've just got to run until I outrun it or until he fucks off. It's like, well, have I actually seen how big his teeth are? Is he actually that big? Which, to a person who's in the throes of anxiety, is like, it's a fucking dragon, of course it is. Shut up. Let's just fucking leg it. See how big his teeth are. Good luck, mate.
Oh, I love that.
And yet at the same time, like, what I find is more and more is, well, have you actually seen the dragon?
Yeah, right.
I know you might have heard his roar. Have you actually seen it? I know you've got some stories about it, and this is, for me, it's like, if we get curious, because for me the key is when we're running away or we're fighting something, it's the oppositional response. Whereas the turn towards is if I make that choice to go, well, let me get curious. If I make that choice to go, let me get curious, then I'm making a decision to turn towards. I can no longer be in that reactive threat mode. So that allows me to get present. That allows me to see something different because I'm no longer running away.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Feels like a little journey that we've created from our strategies.
We have. Did you have any others? Because I feel like we've only done a couple, but maybe we don't need to do the final ones.
Well, listen, it is my goal that every week I'm going to speak about love at some point. Yeah. So my third one is that.
Just love.
Well, okay. So for me, just love yourself, love the process. But for me, being in anxiety was being in fear. And as I've gone on this massive journey, especially the spiritual part of the journey, and realizing that if I come at life with love, then every single thing looks different. So if I am loving myself, even when I'm feeling anxious, I am going to treat myself differently. So then what I see is different and the result is different. So it changes the whole trajectory of what happens next at that point. Rather than going, oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you feel like this? It's kind of like, I hear you. Something's going on. Let's have a look at it. And it's okay. You'll be all right. Right? So it's a whole different way of kind of being with it. Yeah, because if we're not living in love, we live in fear.
I love that. And when in a way that bridges the last thing I talked about and and my final one.
Woohoo! It's like we engineered it, but we didn't.
The link might be a bit tenuous, but I'm gonna have a go. Well, for me, that kind of like the turn towards and get curious is like, how do I put this? So if the anxiety is something, if I'm fighting myself, if I'm having a go at myself, right? Yeah, bring love. Okay, no, I can't do it. Can't join it.
I love that.
I tried. It made sense in my head before I started talking about it, but now it's like, it's gone. Right, let's have another go. So for me, if I'm... No. Just move on to the next one. Clearly it's not there. I was trying to be clever. It's not going to work. So my final one then. My final one is anxiety is not a thing. It's not a thing outside of you. It's not some monster. It's not some disorder. It's not some... Yeah, it's not something outside of you that has control over you. Like, it's a process. Okay. And maybe this is what I was just trying to talk about, in that if the anxiety is something outside of you, then it's easy to be annoyed at my anxiety or something I need to control. But that's a real oppositional response for me. But if I can see it as a process, like, oh, this is because I'm experiencing a threat, like I'm experiencing anxiety, then for me, then it becomes easier to, like you were talking about, if I bring love to that, if I bring curiosity to that, well, then I'm bringing kindness to myself. Because if I think I'm being angry at the anxiety, or I need to get rid of the anxiety, it's just a part of me. So I'm just bringing hatred and war on myself.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, to me doesn't really end well.
No. I've never seen it end well.
Got there in the end.
Yes.
Third time lucky.
And the link was there. It worked. Yes. And I think that was a great example in action.
Yeah, leaning into your edge. It's like, oh shit, this is gonna make... No, it's not. I don't know where the fuck this is going. Oh right, just be with it. Be with it. Try again.
Right? How fucking amazing is that?
Absolutely.
That's
like, if this was a couple of years ago, I'd have been like, we're editing that shit out.
I was going to ask, right? Had it been a couple of years ago, what would have been different? Because I would have done the same thing. I think at that point I would have just gone, oh my God, I need to stop.
And yet now we're just laughing about it.
Yeah. Because... So what?
So what? Hate mail in the comments, please, wherever you're listening to this.
Because, like, so what? Oh.
So, any final closing thoughts on anxiety?
Yeah. Make friends with it. Like, yeah, make friends with it. And it might look completely different.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that because, yeah, for me, it speaks to what I was talking about in terms of that oppositional response. Like, for me, that's like, you know, they say fighting for peace is like fucking for virginity.
And on that note,
it's like, make friends with it because then you'll understand it better, then you might come to an agreement.
oh my gosh.
So my one final thing, as I was thinking about all of this, is it can be hard sometimes to do it alone.
Yeah.
When I think about my struggles with anxiety and the beliefs around it and the certainty around these kinds of things, like a lot of it was because I was trying to do it on my own. And some of that was because it was almost like inherent in the problem, like all of the fear about being outed and the fear about looking stupid meant like I didn't want to involve anyone else because I was afraid of looking stupid. But that also made it so much harder to get a different perspective, to see things a different way, or to get past any sticking points. So that's my final closing thought.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we're done.
Yes.
You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit, with your TheraCoach hosts,
David Bird
and Amy Dave.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's AMI.DAVE.11.
The Notcast.